In 1980, we had the pleasure of being introduced to a sports comedy film that was directed by Harold Ramis called Caddyshack. It was written by Brian Doyle Murray, Harold Ramis, and Douglas Kenney. The film starred Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, Michael O'Keefe, and Bill Murray. This movie was Ramis's directorial debut, and it boosted the career of Rodney Dangerfield, who was already a popular comic on the stand-up circuit. It grossed nearly $40 million on the domestic box office market, which made it the 17th highest grossing for that year. The rowdy, improvisational atmosphere during the shoot of the film that was created by Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, and Rodney Dangerfield didn't sit well with all the members of the cast. Ted Knight, widely regarded as a very nice man, got completely fed up with the constant shenanigans that were pulled. Initially, Murray, Chase, and Dangerfield's roles were all to be cameo appearances, but their excellent improvising caused their roles to be expanded. This was much to the chagrin of some of the other cast members whose roles were reduced as a result of this. Rodney Dangerfield was so unaccustomed at how films were made that the director Ramis had to gently guide him to make sure he was comfortable. But the problem was, Harold Ramis was a novice himself. He had to have people show him what to do. The first scene that Dangerfield was in, the pro shop scene, was set and ready to go, and the director called action, but nothing happened. Dangerfield just stood there. Ramis asked him if there was a problem. Was he ready? Dangerfield replied, "Sure, I'm ready." Ramis called action again. Again, nothing happened. The director walked over to him and said, "Hey, Rodney, when I call action, that's your cue to come in and do the scene." Dangerfield replied to him, "Oh, that's when I come in and do my bit?" Ramis said, "Yes, that's when you do your bit." Ramis called action again for the third time to dead silence. He then decided to change his terms when saying action. What he said anytime Rodney was in a scene was, "Rodney, now do your bit." After saying that, in the pro shop scene, Dangerfield pounced into the room and delivered a perfect take, even improvising the line about getting a free bowl of soup. From then on, whenever Dangerfield was in a scene, Ramis never said action. He just said, "Okay, Rodney, do your bit." Bill Murray's famous Cinderella story scene was improvised almost completely, just with a little bit of direction from Harold Ramis. He simply asked Murray to imagine himself announcing his own fantasy sports moment. Murray then requested that they put 4 rows of mums in front of him, and then he did the scene, all straight off the cuff. The inspiration for the movie came from co-star Brian Doyle Murray's memories of working as a caddy at a golf club. You see, he's Bill Murray's brother, and when he was younger, he and Harold Ramis both worked as caddies when they were teenagers. They sat down and just brainstormed one day behind shut doors, coming up with ideas of things that happened to them or things they remembered from the time that they were working as caddies. Another part that made it into the film from the memories of Brian Doyle Murray was the fact of the Baby Ruth candy bar being thrown into the swimming pool. This was based on a real-life event that he had experienced at his high school. Cindy Morgan didn't want to appear topless in the movie, and she tried to get out of doing that. She was told that if she didn't appear topless in the film, that she would probably have trouble finding work in Hollywood if she didn't. She was also furious at Chevy Chase during their scene in his cabana due to the fact that he was improvising and she couldn't anticipate what he was going to say until he did it. She wanted to be told ahead of time so she would know how to react. This made her completely uncomfortable. which can clearly be seen in the scenes where she's having the tequila shots with him, and also the massage where all the oil accidentally spilled out on her back. Ramis eventually settled both of them down, and the scenes went very smoothly after that. The director suggested that a live animal play the gopher. Rusty Lemarand had been a professional puppeteer through his college years, and he convinced the team that only with the kind of control you had with a puppet could the quantity of the material be filmed. He then searched for a suitable creature builder. Companies such as the Henson Company didn't yet take on outside assignments, so Lemarand contacted friends that he knew at Walt Disney for help. One of the Disney theme park creature designers, named Jeff Burke, was willing to create the character. Lemarand drew a simple sketch indicating the range of movement the puppet would require, and Burke figured out the remainder of the creature's design with further input from Lemarand. The movie was shot over 11 weeks during the summer of 1979. Hurricane David in early September delayed production. The golf scenes were filmed at the Rolling Hills Golf Club, now the Grand Oaks Golf Club, in Davie, Florida. They chose this golf course because the course didn't have any palm trees, and he wanted the movie to have more of a Midwest feel, not a Florida feeling. He didn't want to do the film in L.A. because of the sheer fact that the studio bosses would be breathing down his throat and second-guessing every move that the new director was making. The explosions that take place during the climax of the film were reported at the nearby Fort Lauderdale airport by incoming pilots who suspected that a plane had just crashed. The 4th of July dinner and the dance scene was filmed at Boca Raton Hotel and Club in Boca Raton, while the yacht club scene was shot at the Rusty Pelican restaurant in Key Biscayne, Florida. Now, being close to the airport there were a lot of planes that were flying overhead during the filming, which interfered with a lot of the golf course scenes, and it caused continuity errors in the dialogue tracks that required them to go back and loop these scenes. Bill Murray's younger brother, John, was on the set every day, and his primary job was to alert Harold Ramis and the shooting crew to stop filming while the planes flew by. In the beginning, the studio was terribly nervous about having this first-time director, Harold Ramis, captain the ship, and their answer to this was to have the film include at least one established Hollywood star. Ramis approached Don Rickles to play the role that Rodney Dangerfield eventually gets, but Rickles turned it down. He also sought out Mickey Rourke to play Danny Noonan, but the studio rejected that because they didn't feel like Rourke could play a comedy character. Ramis was then able to secure Chevy Chase, although on a very limited basis at first, to satisfy the studio bosses. Now, Chevy Chase was only on the scene for a few days for filming, and special care was taken by the director to keep Chevy Chase and Bill Murray separate from each other so that they never had to cross paths while the production was underway. The beef between this pair reportedly began when Chevy Chase left Saturday Night Live. He left there on bad terms in 1978. When Chevy Chase returned one time to host the show, all this came to a head. There was name-calling, along with fists being thrown, creating a very sad and painful scene. Murray started yelling things about Chase's well-known marital issues, and Chase fired back with insults of Murray's face looking like the landing spot for Neil Armstrong. Eventually, after all the fists started flying, John Belushi threw himself between the two to stop the chaos. Eventually, on Caddyshack, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, and the director sat down and kind of worked things out a little bit, just so that they could introduce a scene that hadn't been in the original script to where the two are together. This is the only time in the movie that you will see them paired up in the same scene. Even though they were able to work together for a few takes, the tension between the two never let up. What a great movie from this first-time director. Its corniness is one of the things that makes it so endearing. Take a look back at Caddyshack. It's always good for quite a few laughs. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.